Welcome to Waistcoat crocheting for the Octopus for Preemies. Here is how I actually do my octopus. We start the same way you would start with the regular pattern, which is 6 on a magic ring in order to actually get the top of your octopus started. This is just the same as you would do with anything else. I am using a size 3 cotton yarn made by Ice Yarn, and I'm using a 2.1 millimeter hook for my crocheting. So here is my round 1. You tighten up your ring so it is almost all the way closed, but not all the way, so we can actually do row 2. And here's where the magic begins and what actually makes the waistcoat crochet different. You are going to insert your hook right on the V from the stitch below, not to the side as you would normally do, but inside the actual stitch below. This will give the knitted look that this waistcoat crochet gives. So again, it is right into the stitch below, and as you can see, you are going into the stitch below. You're doing row 2, which is 2 per stitch. As you can see also, I haven't closed the center of my ring all the way. That's just to make it a little bit easier to go around and doing the 2 per stitch, because we're starting with so few stitches. So this is, as you can see, I actually am really used to dealing with really thin yarns, so a size 3 yarn for me is what I'm comfortable, so it makes it a lot easier. It also makes it easier for me not to have the issues that most people have been having with like the bended hooks. So here is the end of round 2. So again, you finish in round 2. Here's what I really tied the center of my magic ring, so there's no more opening. You have a perfect circle. You are going to start round 3, which is the increases. Here's what I differ from the pattern. I do all of my increases at the beginning of the row instead of do 1 and then the increase. So I actually will do, this is to end up with 18 stitches, so I will do 2 single crochets into the first stitch of the row. And again, we're going into the center of the stitch below, so 2 single crochets into the first stitch of the row. Sorry for all the moving. I was trying to keep everything focused. Apparently I'm not very good at it. Here's where I put my stitch marker to mark my beginning and ending of the rows. If any of you love those stitch markers, I did put a link on the description below to where I got them. So then I do single crochet in the next one, again going into the center of it to get the knitted look the waistcoat gives. 2 on the next one for the increase. Again, this is a personal preference. It's just a way that actually works for me to do my increases. You can follow the pattern, it will give you the same results. I just personally, this works better for me. So I do my increases, like I said, at the beginning of it. I do my decreases the same way. I do them at the beginning of it instead. It just works better on my brain, just the way I crochet. So here we go. We keep going, you know, doing 2 and 1, and then 1 and the next one for a total of 18 on row 3. Again, remember, everything is going to be going into the center of the stitch below, so it will give you the stack look, and it will look like it was if you are used to seeing the knitted garter stitch type of item, you will see those beads stacked on top of each other. That's what waistcoat crochet does. And for the octopuses also, it makes it almost impossible for you to get any holes when you're stuffing. Because the stitches are stacking on top of each other, there's no way of actually getting holes in between. I've yet to have one of my octopuses not pass because of holes. This actually prevents holes from happening. It also allows you to be a lot tighter. So as you can see, we're actually moving along. You can see they're going on top of each other, and then you can move. I'm now going to show you something that I had already moved, and this is one that I had gotten down from. I am on row 14th. Because the yarn is a little bit more smaller, it's actually row 21 because I add 5 rows between row 7 and row 14 just to get the length of it, just because of how small the yarn is. It's ice yarn. We're still testing it. It's not completely approved. We're waiting to get it done, but it works beautiful. But as you can see the knitted look that waistcoat gives you. And as you can see, there's no holes. There's no room for anything to go in between those stitches. You can see everything goes in between. This is stacked. The beads are a stack of each other. Stitches are like perfectly stacked one on top of the other because you're going into the center of the one below. And I know that sounds like repeating myself over and over again, but that's basically the main reason why you want to do waistcoat stitching for this project, because that stacking is what actually prevents those holes. When you go to the side of the stitch, that can actually give you the opportunity to have holes in between. That actually is most of the reasons that you're having issues with holes. This will actually prevent that. For me, this is a lot easier. This is how I learned to crochet. So for me, this is like the easiest way to crochet. It's crocheting to the side of the stitch is actually not natural for me. So this is why this works for me. I hope this actually helps people. Like I said, I have yet had one that has not passed due to a hole using this method. Again, if you can see on it, it looks like a beautiful stacking of beads, one over the other, with no room in between the stitches for anything to get through. And even as small as they are, I can stuff about 26 grams of stuffing into them, and that gives me a very firm passing through, and again, no holes. If you can see, is the very pretty knitted look with your crochet. And again, I'm sorry for the trying to move it. I was trying to keep it within the view of the camera. It's kind of hard when you're like doing this for the first time and you're having to record yourself and do it. So kudos to all of you that actually do tutorials, because I've learned how hard those are. So again, just keep going into the center of your stitch below. That will keep going. I am actually finishing my last row, about to do the decreases. I wanted to show you guys the decreases. The decreases will be the same as you are used to doing, you know, going through one stitch, pulling the yarn through, hold it, go through the next stitch, pulling the yarn through, holding it, and then going through all 3 pieces in the hook. We're about to get there. Again, you know, if you guys have any questions, if the video helps any of you, I hope it does. And if you guys have any questions, at the front of the video there is my contact information. Feel free to contact me. I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. You guys have me on Facebook as well, but it also has my email address, and you guys can contact me that way as well. Happy to help. that's what we're here for. And again, I am so sorry about all the moving around, trying to get the right angle on the video to so where you could see the best portion of it. So here we go. I think if you can, if I could actually stick to one spot, you can see it goes right through the one below. Again, you can see the stitches, they're all stacked together. And it might look like it has a little bit of holes. Trust me, there's no holes in there at all. And again, I'm using a size 3 yarn, which is a lot thinner than most of you. Not quite crochet thread, but it's more like a fingering weight yarn. And I'm using a 2.1 millimeter hook, which is what I feel comfortable with. I have not had a tension issue. I have not had any of my crochet. It's the same crochet hook I've been using for years. Have not bended it. Even with this project, I see all the ones that have suffered from bending their hooks or breaking their hooks. This is a very cheap hook that I bought at Hobby Lobby for like $2 and change, and I put polymer clay over it just to make it more comfortable because it's so thin. But that's pretty much the extent that I did to the hook, and it has survived through a lot of crocheting, including a lot of octopuses. Alright, so here's the last of what would be either round 14 for most of you, round 21 for me, because of the yarn being so small. So here's where I do my decreases at the beginning of the round, just like I do my increases at the beginning of the round. So here it goes. It goes right into the same way. You go into the stitch below, you pull through, and you hold. You go into the next stitch, right into the middle of it, you pull through, and you hold, and now you have created your first decrease, and then you're going to crochet 4. So like I said, this is the only thing that I do a little bit different. We're like a reverse. Normally most of you would have crochet 4, then do the decrease. I actually do my decrease, then crochet 4. And again, that's just because for my brain, doing the increases and decreases from the beginning, it actually works out better for me. Again, if you do the decreases and increases like the pattern calls for, and it's not going to make any difference using this stitch versus the regular crocheting. For me, this is just the way I crochet, so it makes it easier for me. As you can see, that with the waistcoats also, that the decreases are so tight, and because you're going from the same stitches that are in the bottom, there's no holes in between the decreases either. Actually, the decreases are very hard to tell. The only reason why you can tell is when it's actually finalized. You can see that your octopus has gone down. But as you can tell, there's hardly any difference between the stitches. And everything, as you can tell, is a stacking. It looks like a knitted. Hope it helped. Talk to you soon.